Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe it's ADHD. But if you like conspiracies, you should just follow me. Who shot JFK? It's the CIA. Project Mockingbird and MK Ultra. Fake the moon landing, cause the earth is flat. Where is the Stargate? The Anunnaki left. Yeah, I definitely need to clean it up. But, like, literally that's just me singing along to this random song. Like, I didn't use any of my recording equipment. It's just me singing along with it. I thought it was funny. Now I just gotta clean it up. But I should use that, right? Everybody says yes. If you add some words here and there to make it flow a bit. Yeah, well, I just gotta polish it. Like I said, it was just me. I was doing dishes. That song came on, and then I just rolled with it. So then I should have, hooked it up to this stuff. All right, here we go. I don't know how to start stuff, so welcome. If you're here, if you're just showing up, this is the third episode of the Whole Truth podcast, where I will explore all of the rabbit holes. What's my podcast name? The Whole Truth, yeah. And this episode, we're going to be talking about aliens. But also, I do have some thank yous that I need to throw out there for all of this recording equipment. Thanks to my followers. And thank you to Melanie for my 2 new books. Uh-oh, I'm stuck. She got me, it's going to be backwards, but the CIA Manual of Trickery and Deception, declassified version. That's actually pretty interesting. It's got a lot of ways to, I didn't know the CIA used magicians so much. And also, she got me, but I have not cracked it open yet, How to Drag a Body and Other Safety Tips You Hope You Never Need. I may need that. Although I do know how, I know how to do most things, although it's a survival guide. Anywho, how this podcast is going to go is once a week, maybe twice a week, who knows. I will be doing this podcast, and I will be answering questions from the chat, but mostly I'm just going to be letting stuff just spill out of my brain. And every once in a while, maybe once a month, who knows, I'm going to do a segment that my friends and I like to call Whiskey Drunk and Paranoid, where they come over to the conspiracy cabin and join me while drinking a bottle of whiskey and going over whatever conspiracy theory comes up. This episode is called What's Up with the Aliens? Because there has been a lot of stuff going on recently, well, in like the past year, maybe year and a half, of UFOs and aliens and declassified files and all that kind of stuff. Somebody just said Jiffy peanut butter in the chat. That kind of got me to chuckle. So there are a couple different things that could be going on with the aliens. First of all, aliens do exist. Probably not how everybody pictures them. I don't think that they would use spacecraft of any kind. I think they would be interdimensional. I think they would use something like a portal or a Stargate. If you don't know what that is, I'll go into it at some point, I'm pretty sure. But I am of the opinion that most of the UFOs that we are seeing are actually time travelers from the future, a la Captain Nova. If you've seen that movie, she creates a portal in space, sends a spacecraft through it, and travels through time. Time travel itself is a weird subject because time only exists on Earth. It's a human construct. It's how we gauge things. But if you consider time being, or reality being, everything's happening everywhere all at once. Wait, hold on. Don't believe the hype. It's a setup. They are going to use aliens as a mask. Hologram Proj 1957. Well, that's actually Project Bluebeam. What Project Bluebeam was Carol, I think her name was, I want to say Carol Baskin, but that's not right. Carol somebody. That was the assistant to Werner von Braun, who is part of the German military, let's say, or German military force in World War II, and then was brought to the United States through Operation Paperclip, along with a lot of high-ranking officials, scientists, educators, professors, and military men. He then was commissioned by the Catholic Church with another guy. I think his name, he was an Italian guy. I can't remember his name, but Werner von Braun and this other guy were commissioned by the Catholic Church to help them either repair or build a chronovisor, which is kind of like what people refer to as a looking glass, or like in the movie Deja Vu, and tippy tappy toes, go find somewhere to sit. But anyway, so the Catholic Church has a chronovisor that they can use to look into the past. I am unclear whether you can use a chronovisor to look into the future. I don't know. And that is kind of like an unconfirmed theory. But it is a theory nonetheless. And then, where was I with that? What his assistant said was, Carol, I can't remember her name, Carol, on his deathbed, he admitted to her that there was a plan by the United States, since he was also the founder of NASA after he completed the chronovisor project with the Catholic Church. He came back to the United States, was one of the founders of NASA, which is a Nazi organization, along with the CIA, that manipulates people into space travel, into space stuff. But his headstone is very interesting. Thank you, whoever said that. But he warned of Project Bluebeam, which was a classified project that the United States government and probably all world governments were going to be a part of, where they would use a fake alien invasion in order to assert control over the population. This fake alien invasion was going to be done by projecting holograms into the sky to make it seem like there was an alien invasion. It's not too far-fetched. It could probably happen. The other thing along with that is like they're setting up for that pretty hardcore. Like there was, before this most recent Las Vegas alien thing where the alien ship landed in the guy's backyard, there was a ship or a craft hovering over a club on the Las Vegas Strip, and there's video of a patron and a bouncer and a couple other people going outside and looking up and seeing this craft that had different color lights on it and all sorts of stuff. And everybody's like, it's aliens. But that video didn't really take off all that well. And I find it hard to believe that a aircraft of any kind could have gotten to that point where it was just hovering over Las Vegas airspace. But I don't know. I'm not in the Air Force. I'm not in the military. I'm not an aviator. I don't fly planes. So what do I know? I just don't think that they would let that happen. But weirder stuff has happened. With the other alien stuff, or the UFO stuff, after the balloon transversed the nation, they went up and shot another balloon, and then they've been shooting down all sorts of things, which seems like a bad idea. Like, why would you shoot them down? Why wouldn't you want to try and contact them first, or get in contact, find out what they want first? Who knows? But I think that's a bad move if they are in fact aliens. Not that aliens would use spacecraft, but they would need some sort of craft in order to travel while on Earth. The other thing with that kind of stuff is that there was just a whistleblower that came out and said that the United States has had aliens and spacecraft since Roswell, 1947. And then there's all sorts of alien sightings and all craziness that has been happening for the past probably 60 years, 70 years. Oh, thank you. And this whistleblower was I can't believe, he was with the Department of Homeland Security or the National Security Agency or something. And they asked people that worked with him and knew him well if he would have made this up. And those people still working for those agencies did not say, neither confirmed nor denied his claims, but what they did say is he's a good guy, he doesn't lie. And they're like, does that mean he's telling the truth? Or this information is true? They just repeated, he is a good guy, he doesn't lie. So that to me is like, yeah, they're kind of corroborating his story. But again, what do I know? I'm just a guy that lives in a cabin and talks about conspiracies. But what I've been doing, since I've got a lot of time on my hands, is I've been watching as many movies in the past year as I possibly can. Because one, I like movies. And two, I think they use them as programming, like predictive programming. I think they do hide the answers in movies. I think there are several movies that are hallmarks of programming, such as Back to the Future. Back to the Future connects to a lot of stuff. But also, I think Spielberg is telling the truth in his movies. I think the Simpsons, one of the original writers of The Simpsons, actually wrote a couple books on time travel, and they have made several predictions, along with this most recent prediction about the submersible and the Titanic. That was recently an episode. The Simpsons seem to have trolled me, actually, last year in their first episode of whatever season this is. I think it's season 36. But they made a conspiracy episode and they said a bunch of the stuff that I said, and they had an evidence wall with string and all sorts of stuff. But I thought they were trolling me for a second. But the three things that I watched recently, that if the aliens are coming, for something untoward, I think these will pretty much give you the answers. The first one is the TV show V. That was made, I believe it was 2011. There are only 2 seasons of it. And V stands for visitors. These visitors just show up, and of course they have like human suits. They're human. But anyway, they look human. They're actually lizards. Interesting. But they manipulate humans in order to there's something on Earth that they need. I don't really remember it all that well, but V was a decent show. It's one of those shows where they explain what's going on 4 times, and I hate that. Oh no, there's an alien spaceship. What should we do? And then somebody else goes, oh no, there is an alien spaceship. What should we do? And then it just goes on and on like that. I don't like those kind of shows. It's a decent show, though. Only 2 seasons. It does not have a happy ending. It ends like how I would make a movie, the logical closure point, where nothing good ever happens. But also, there is a movie that came out, and I can't remember when it came out. I think it was 2018 or 2017, but it's called The Fifth Wave. Maybe it was even sooner or newer than that. But the aliens in that are called the Others. And they use 5 waves to take out the humans without hurting the planet. So they want the planet, they just want humans off of it. The first one was I don't know, an EMP blast to take out all the electronics. The second wave was I think the second wave was an earthquake. And then the third wave was literally waves. Basically, if you've ever seen not the day after tomorrow. Is it the day after tomorrow? That's silly. But where that giant wave comes and takes out New York City. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube, what would happen if a polar shift happened. And it was basically that. It was all of the water on the planet, rising up and drowning a bunch of stuff. That was 1, 2, 3. Fourth wave was something. Oh, the fourth wave was an illness, a virus that they send out, and that takes out a whole bunch of people. And the fifth wave was them brainwashing the children in order to take out the adults, anybody that was against the others. And they do that by implanting a chip and making them see things differently. And that I think that one correlates a lot with what has been going on in the world. I'm not going to go back through it, but the last one is The Day the Earth Stood Still, the remake with Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is a being from another universe or dimension or planet, and he comes to Earth, and the first thing that we do when he steps off the plane, when he's going to shake the hand of the person that's coming out to meet him, is we shoot him. We just shot the alien. wasn't doing anything. You know, it was just there, and somebody freaked out and shot him. I find that very believable. And then he takes human form and asks to speak to the world leaders. And of course, one of our government officials, not even the president, says, "You can go pound sand. We're keeping you in this bunker. You're not leaving here." And of course, he's a very powerful being and escapes pretty easily, and then meets with somebody that they sent here in human form that spent 70 years on the planet, and told him that these beings, these humans, are irredeemable, they're destructive, and they will never change. The sad part is that they know their destruction is coming, and they know why, and they can't stop it. And then the Keanu, he says, "I was hoping to be able to reason with them." And the guy's talking, he's like, "Well, how did that work out?" He's like, "They shot you." So yeah, I think that movie is very believable. That and another point in that movie is when he's talking to the government official, she goes, "Why have you come to our planet?" And he goes, "Your planet?" And whoever just gave me that was pretty cool. And she goes, "Yes, our planet." And he just looks confused. And then later on in the movie, he's like, "No, the planet doesn't belong to anybody. You're just on it, and you're destroying it. And there are only so many planets in the universe that are capable of supporting complex life, and you're killing it." So he has to take out Tippy Tappy, knock it off. So he has to take out all of the basically human virus that is destroying the planet. It's not a bad flick. I don't like how it ends because they give you hope, where he comes to his realize that human life is precious, even though it's complex and destructive. He meets with a professor, and the professor's like, "Well, if you would share some of our technology or some of your technology, maybe that would help us see the error in our ways." And he's like, "Technology isn't the problem. You would use it how you're using all of the technology you've already had to destroy each other and to destroy the planet as well." And I find that very believable. But those are the three that I've recently seen that I think correlate with what could possibly be coming in the somewhat near future. There's also an interview with a guy that claims to be a time traveler from the year 2045. He says a lot of the stuff that I've already said in previous videos and in this video, but his red letter dates are 2028. He says that in 2028, the government or the world people will realize that alien life does exist and that UFOs are real and stuff like that. But I think he also alludes to most of the UFOs being time travelers coming back from the future in order to observe. A lot of them, apparently, if this is an actual thing, a lot of time travelers from the future come back in these crafts in order to observe certain events, and they're able to cloak themselves, like in Star Trek: The Next Generation. They cloak themselves. Anyway, cloaking device, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. They become invisible, and sometimes when we see them, it's because that technology failed, and they don't realize it, or what have you. Also, these people from the future are going to look very different from us because of human evolution, and also using machines as part of human evolution, and all this kind of craziness. It kind of makes sense. Also, not everything makes sense. The 100%. I don't think anybody's telling the truth 100%. But if these are time travelers coming back from the future, that at least gives us hope that some form of life will live that long. John Tidor also says that that UFOs that we see in this time, and he claims to be from 2036. The other guy claimed to be from 2045. But he claimed that they're time travelers as well. He uses a different form of time travel. He makes a diagram of it, puts it in a 1967 Corvette, which is interesting that the current president of the United States has a treasured 1967 Corvette and travels back in time. And then he also has a 1987 Chevy square body, probably, truck that he puts it in, a 4x4, probably because he was going to a place that he needed four-wheel drive and realized that a Corvette probably wasn't going to do well. Um, and there's a lot of stuff that correlates with John Titor, but the timeline isn't always going to make sense. There's always going to be a 1 to 2% change while moving throughout different realities and different timelines, however you want to look at it. Because in my understanding of it, it's not easy to travel on your own timeline other than the metaphysical aspect of time travel, which I got into earlier today, which is being able to meditate and transfer your consciousness or transport your consciousness to a different spot on the timeline and just be there. That I believe is somewhat possible. I don't believe it's possible, however, like how they portray it in the movie. The movie I'm referencing is Somewhere in Time with Keanu Reeves and Jane Seymour. Basically, Superman and Dr. Quinn fall in love back in time, and he's a time traveler. Also, with that movie, like, I've been watching a lot of movies made in the 80s because, it's Predestination, the Ethan Hawke movie that I don't like, about time travel. He says that time travel was invented in 1981, and they're only able to move 100 years in either direction on the timeline. But that might be the same form of time travel that John Titor has. I think the guys in the future that use the spacecraft, like in Captain Nova, the Atom Project is another one. I think they could be from way further in the future. Again, what do I know? I'm just a guy that lives in a cabin and talks about craziness. Oh yeah, but 80s movies. I've been watching 80 movies because of that reason, but like, I understand the hashtag Me Too movement now. Like, dudes were not good. Like, nobody kept their hands to themselves. It's pretty disturbing. Like, a lot of people watch Somewhere in Time like it's some great love movie or, love story where he traveled through time for this woman, but he shows up and just like he crashes a party this woman's at. She doesn't know who he is. And they ask him to leave, and she like wants to make sure everything's okay. Goes out to talk to him as he's leaving. He's like, "Hey, I'm in love with you. I want to hang out with you. Can we hang out?" She's like, "No, but I just want to make sure everything's okay." And she's like, "I want to hang out." Like, he's all like gung ho about it. And I'm like, "Wow, man, that's uncomfortable." And then he just shows up at her room at 6:30 in the morning and asks her like if she wants to hang out with him. She's like, "No, I don't. It's 6 a.m. Like, go away." And he's like, "No," and basically like puts his foot in the door jamb so she can't close it. And he even does like this, "If you do not go out with me, I will go completely insane and be mad." And like, I'm like, dude, you can't act like you're gonna be a crazy person and expect a good response. And then she does go out with him, probably through curiosity or fear, and they go for a walk, nothing really impressive. And she's like, "Okay, well, I got to go back to my room and, get ready for this show I have tonight," because she's an actress. And he's like, "Well, can I come with you?" And she's like, "No, I got to get ready for the show." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to walk you back to your room. I'm going to come back with you." And she's like, "Fine." Because Christopher Reeve's a big dude. Like, he played Superman. He's not a small guy like me. And he goes back with her to her room and basically invites himself into her room. And I'm like, that's rude. You can't do that. And then she's like, "What's going on right now?" And he just like moves closer, like he's going to kiss her. And she's like, "No." And I'm like, "She said no." And then he like grabs her like by the face and she's like, "No." And I'm like, "She said no." And then he just kisses her and she's like, and she's supposed, like, in the movie, she's just like, "Oh, I'm in love now." I'm like, no, that is assault, brother. Like, you can't do that. Hashtag Me Too. That's not a good thing to do. It just kind of like, if I tried that, like, I'd get a knee somewhere. I don't know. Like, guys just need to learn to keep their hands to themselves. Like, just, like, not everything's yours, you douche. Anyway. That's my whole diatribe on that. And also, with Back to the Future, I said this in the last podcast, that let's call it alpha reality, which I'm not sure, Back to the Future 1 is actually the first time that they've time traveled, but it is in that movie. That's where we pick up. And Lorraine is depressed and a drunk and trapped in a loveless marriage because she was in that timeline. Biff would have still been drunk at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. He would have still been looking for Lorraine, whether Michael J. Fox or George McFly was in the car with her. It wouldn't have mattered who was in the car with her, except there was no George McFly to intervene in the original timeline or reality. He would have just successfully assaulted Lorraine. And where we pick up is whatever, 40 years in the future, where she's depressed, alcoholic, and hates life because of her previous experiences. And then when we get back to 1985 on this better timeline at the end of the movie, she's fit, she's happy. George is kind of a doucher. And that's why, what was his name? Now I can't remember his name. The guy that played George McFly. That's why he was not in any of the subsequent movies, because he didn't like how materialistic they made George at the end of Back to the Future. He didn't think that George would have been like that, and I tend to agree. But I don't remember where I was going. Oh yeah, but like I totally understand #me too after watching all of these 70s and 80s movies looking for time travel clues, because did nobody's first of all, I think like nobody had a good mom. And also nobody had anybody ever tell them that you should keep your hands to yourself, like you don't own people. Crispin Glover, that's his name. Thank you. Because like you watch Animal House, that movie is atrocious. Like they make a date R-word joke and it's accepted. Like you're allowed to make a R-word joke and it's just fine, but it wasn't fun. And then there's Peeping Toms in that movie, The Thin Man. Ooh. Yeah, there's Peeping Toms in that movie and you're supposed to laugh at it. I'm like, no, this girl thinks she's alone in her room and you got this frat boy on a ladder. Like it is kind of silly, but I see the comedy in it, but it's still not right. And I'm sure other people, like when you make a joke about something, it kind of makes light of it. And if it's not right, not everybody can see that aspect of it. They only see the comedy in it. And Porky's with the Peeping Tom, and the exploitation of the whatever her name is from Sex and the City, where they nicknamed her Lassie. That was pretty terrible. They exploited her. And what like there's a bunch of movies way before #me too that like I had seen, didn't really think of anything at the time, but now that I'm adult, I'm like, yeah, Kim Cattrall. I'm like, that wasn't a good thing. Like that really wasn't a good thing. Like this deserves a worse rating than it got. But there's a bunch of stuff like that. And now all the movies that I watched in high school and stuff, I can't say the words because they're, the bad words now. Like for mentally handicapped, you can't say the R word, but it's still a thing. Like we just use the euphemism treadmill, like Doug Stanhope explains in his bit. It's not like the term we use now has any different meaning. It's just that now people are, instead of using the R word, they're going to say, are you mentally challenged? Like it's still going to have the same connotation. But like that, a bunch of other words that I like to say, you can't say. There's a part in Harold and Kumar where they're stuck in traffic and a guy yells at him and he says a very funny line that I cannot say because I'll get banned. But anyway, where was I with the aliens? I can never say I'm trapped. My head just swirls all the time and I never know what's going on. So I covered the TV show V. I covered The Fifth Wave. I covered The Day the Earth Stood Still, Captain Nova, the Atom Project I've spoken about. I think those are the only, well, Independence Day too, but they really hurt the planet. And most of the other movies are saying that the planet is precious. Human life is not. We need the planet. We don't need the humans. And they just come and exterminate us, which makes total sense to me. Yeah, the man from 2045, he says that time travel and the existence of aliens will become common knowledge in 2028. I think he's going to tell us that there are indeed time travelers, there are ways to time travel, and that aliens do exist, but they're not interstellar. They would be interdimensional. Not that they don't have a mothership. There have been a lot of reports of a mothership. I don't know how that is possible if we're on a flat plane. I think this is my personal theory, so strap in. I think that the Simpsons episode where Lisa makes she has a science project and she puts bacteria in it. What do you call it? Is it not a beaker, but the flat one? Like I don't know what that's called. A culture thing, whatever that's called with bacteria. Petri dish. Thank you. That's the word. It was her tooth. There you go. She puts her tooth in a petri dish, and a civilization emerges or evolves, and she's able to observe it, and she's able to do things with it, and then Bart comes along and messes with it and becomes their enemy. So what if Lisa represents some form of the Anunnaki? They needed gold, apparently, from all of the stories, and they made this civilization or culture in a petri dish on a flat plane, and it's got a cover over it, but they can still observe it, and they even have technology in order to shrink themselves down and interact with it. These beings hold Lisa in regards like a god, which they did with the Anunnaki, and they also regard Bart as the devil, and they actually attack him with spaceships when they evolve better. But what if that is truly the case? That we are a science experiment gone awry, or just left in the fridge for 2,000 years, 3,000 years, whoever knows. It's probably more like 11,000, because if you look at the Holy Bible, 6,000 to 8,000 years ago is when the worldwide flood was. And if you look at ancient Sumerian texts and things that reference a worldwide flood, that would have been probably 10 to 11,000 years ago, so maybe 12,000 years ago is when they left us to our own devices. And yes, like Rick and Morty inside Rick's battery, where it just keeps going and going and going and going. And not unlike the last episode of the Black Mirror, or not the last episode, but season 3, episode 1. I think it's season 3, episode 1, but it's called Joan is Awful. And Joan is a normal person that ends up being a show on Netflix without her, or what Strawberry, I think, is the name of their streaming service, but it's got the same sound effect, the same graphic as Netflix, so let's call it Netflix. And then when they get to the quantum computer that is creating the show, and how they do it is they use all the signals from cell phones and cameras and found footage around her to create the show. She realizes that she is not Alpha Joan. She is actually the second one. There was a literal Joan that's just a normal person that they made a show of, but in that show, they have to show that person reacting to the show, and so on and so forth. It's basically like looking down a mirror, two mirrors that are next to each other. It's infinite. That could be how our multiverse works. I don't know. We're probably all being computer generated by a supercomputer or quantum computer or something. I don't know. Stop tippy tapping! You're going away. No, you're coming on the podcast. I like her too much. I don't mind if you tippy tap. Bless you. If I hold you. Ow! You can't walk. Oh no! Alright, if you're watching the video version, this is Jackson, and he's the tippy-tappy toes that are touching the floor the whole time. And it's very warm, and I don't have AC, so I don't want him just trapped in the bedroom, so he's out here with me. And that's that. So Jackson is very rammy tonight. and trying to get in my face. So, oh, you broke my... Nope, I fixed it. And Jackson likes watching movies, too. This is going to be a very difficult episode to edit, but I'm willing to give it a shot. What else can I talk about? Somebody else say something, because I have lost track of everything. And I no longer have that train of thought. Choo-choo. It has left the station. What's new on the wall? Actually, nothing is new on the wall. I took the whole thing down to try and revamp it, and just haven't really gotten into it yet. But what I have found is that the books that I have blown my mind about Baron Trump aren't the center of the conspiracy. The center of the conspiracy are the Back to the Future movies, because the Back to the Future movies connect to everything. They connect to Trump. They connect to 9/11. They connect to JFK. They connect to the books. But the books don't connect really to the movie, other than the movie connecting to them. And they also don't connect to 9/11. But if I diagram it on my wall, it turns out to be a pentagram, no matter how I do it, unless I do it on a straight line. But you can't show everything connecting on a straight line. So if you try and do a circle, it's coming out to a pentagram. If you try and do a different shape, a Star of David, it's going to still look like a pentagram. And I just don't want to put a pentagram on my wall, because I don't know a lot about spirituality and all that kind of stuff. But I know it's not good to have a demonic symbol on your wall. Some people say it's a healthy symbol. Other people say that it's a symbol of protection. I don't know. All I know is what I've seen in the movies that I watch a lot. And it doesn't look like something that I want to have on my wall. So I have neglected to do that. But I will be putting more things on there and showing what connects to what. I just haven't done it yet. And where was I? Yeah, CERN has a lot to do with it. That's a very troubling thing. I don't like to get into CERN, because it's obvious that they're up to no good. And it's obvious that they're not telling us the truth. And I don't like them, and I don't know enough about them. Yeah, like, I mean, I like to learn stuff, figure stuff out on my own, but when it comes to pentagrams on my wall, I don't want to figure out if it's going to open a portal to a demonic dimension or not. However, like I said in my other one through or my video earlier today, I'm pretty sure that if there are multiple me's, I'm the Bizarro World evil one. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm not the best one that's out there. But what else is going on with the aliens? I think there are definitely aliens, and they do exist. They do have contact with humans. They may be manipulating world leaders, or at least our leaders, in order to move the planet in one direction. We're definitely using their technology. I know technology and science builds on itself, but how quickly? We were horse and buggy for 2,000 years or more since, we started tracking time. Not 2,000 years, 1,920, I think, is when cars, the internal combustion engine came out. Or the motor carriage. And then less than 100 years later, we've got Teslas, we've got supersonic friggin' hologram jets and stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense how quickly technology has built upon itself. Not that it's impossible, and not that we wouldn't be able to do it, but I think we took alien technology or whatever and started building on that. Dolores Cannon. You're gonna have to remind me of who Dolores Cannon is. And thanks everybody for the likes and the gifts and all that stuff. That's awesome. Keep it going. Anywho, yeah, technology has moved way too fast for us to have done it by ourselves without help from some sort of being or technology that we reverse engineered. it seems very possible. I don't think that any sort of alien invasion would happen like they play it in the movies. I think they're already here. I don't think that they are scared of us at all. So anybody that says that they're hiding or that they're running away from us, that's probably the future time traveler people that are trying not to be detected so they don't cause a paradox. I don't know. There is a guy from New Zealand who says he discovered a way to do paradox-free time travel because the small changes, like in the butterfly effect, which is another metaphysical form of time travel, or another example of a metaphysical form of time travel, not all of the changes create massive butterfly effects, but there are certain events that must occur for the simulation that we are all in. Going back to, if we're in a petri dish, it's probably more like a digital simulation petri dish. Or maybe we've evolved to a point where we're no longer in the petri dish and we're a part of this simulation. That's possible. Choo choo. Totally forgot where I was going. Where was I? Simulation. Something before the simulation caught me. Now I can't remember what it was. Time travel, simulation, aliens, The Simpsons, butterfly effect. Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you, eat me. Things that have to happen. So JFK had to be assassinated. That had to happen. The 9/11 terrorist event, something that had to happen. The worldwide pandemic, something that had to happen. It had to get everybody in the world on the same emotional plane in order for the simulation to move forward. So if we move throughout the timeline or move throughout realities, those things must occur. And John Titor, when he came back, he said that he didn't mention 9/11 because it doesn't happen in his timeline, but not everything is going to match up. Not every timeline is going to match up. These small changes that are made, or this 1% change throughout the entire universe, could mean that you were born at a different time in a different place. And that kind of gets into the spiritual aspect of it. Whether we are literal beings that live and then die and then nothing, or if we're energy sources in a physical form that move throughout the universe, or who knows? Like, it could be several different things. Ever see data collected on consciousness and how on 9/11 all over the world scientists recorded odd spikes? Yes, I have seen that. And also, have you seen the studies and the data on plants reacting to human energy in a massive way? When huge events like that occur, plants detect it. Plants communicate. Plants have emotion. Plants feel things, which is weird to think about, but they do. And it's nonverbal, of course. It's that they don't move, but they release pheromones. They communicate through non-physical forms. Plants are conscious, and they are connected to human energy. That is why not only does the CO2 that is emitted through you talking help your plants, but they enjoy the interaction. They've studied that. Like plants, house plants, enjoy when you interact with them. How crazy is that? It kind of brings you back to Little Shop of Horrors, doesn't it? Like, it's crazy. Feed me, Seymour, feed me. Like, do you want Miracle Grow? Like, what do you want? Anyway, Jackson wants to do something. He's still tippy-tapping. I should have done something to make him not do. I need to get him socks. He doesn't like them, though. He used to wear those booties for, like, hiking. He'll just rip them off his feet. Hates them. But is there anything else that I have missed or that I should go over? The M. Night Shyamalan movie about plants? Yeah, that is actually true. Well, I don't know if the happening could actually be true. I don't know if they could emit a toxin that would take out humans, but they do it with wasps, I believe. It's either wasps or ants or something that they affect. I'm convinced I need a wall to prove it. Uh, make your own wall. Like I just have a Goldern wall in my cabin that I use. I don't know where I'm at. Fungus release toxins, mushrooms, and moss could do the happening. It could, but nothing just happens. There has to be small steps. So we would see plants starting to affect people in different ways. And by the time it got to that point, hopefully we would come up with an idea of how to fix it. And it wouldn't be on a global scale, but we don't know. Well, no, we do know at the end of the movie it was a global scale because I think they're in France. Yeah, that's stuff. That's a whole bunch of stuff. And there is a fungus that I think Joe Rogan's spoken about it on his podcast that the Japanese have used to improve their subway system or their road system or something like that, like an engineer, an architectural engineer of how to build something because this fungus figures it out in like 24 hours. It built like or diagrammed their subway system or whatever system it is in less than 24 hours, and then they built it, and it's perfect. The show us. Yeah. The intention of and energy with our words have a big impact on things. The rice experiment. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Love the Tesla on the wall. Med beds and wireless electric. Yeah, there will never be wireless energy as long as we let the people that are doing things keep doing things. They will never let us have it. We were almost going to have it, and then they Thomas Edison literally destroyed Tesla's tower and used it for scrap. That happened. Tell us more about your dream. Okay, so I covered this on the last podcast, and I covered this in I think 2 or 3 videos. But I'm able to lucid dream, not every night, but I used to practice lucid dreaming, and now when I'm feeling stressed out or whatever, I'll meditate. But when I do that, I also try to lucid dream afterwards because you're still in a meditative state. And yeah, Dr. Parkenstein, I do love. He's a great character. Like, I wish I could hang out with Dr. Parkenstein. When he plays hymns, he goes live sometimes, and he plays hymns on his piano and on his organ and stuff like that, just old style hymns. And I get really into it. My dad was a pastor, and I liked it. I can sing along with him, but that's beside the point. Anyway, lucid dream. I done did dreamt. Anyway, what did I do? I woke up and I was on my high school bus, and it was not. I still remember it. It felt like the physical world. Everything about it felt like the physical world. It didn't feel like a lucid dream. I tried to push on a solid object, which was the window, and it was solid. I couldn't find a clock because I was on a school bus, and nobody had cell phones because it was 2004. And the person that I asked who the president was, and I could not, for the life of me, remember or recall the name because it wasn't a common name, and I hadn't heard it before. So it was like somebody said it, and I forgot it, and then I kept going along with the dream. And then I've been thinking about it, trying to remember it for the past 6 months. And then this video of the time traveler from 2045 comes out, and he says the best president of the United States was Yolanda King. And I don't know if he said Yolanda Renee King or Yolanda King. But as soon as he said it, it like resonated. And then as I was editing the podcast that I just posted, that the number 2, Whiskey Drunk and Paranoid with Nate, I mentioned it before, and as soon as I heard that, it like all clicked together, and I was like, that's the name. It was Yolanda. I don't remember if it was Yolanda King or Yolanda Renee King, because I believe Yolanda Renee King died in 2007, which means she would have been alive in 2004. But on that timeline, things were a little bit different. There was a lot more security and police and all that sort of thing in Philadelphia. And there were shanty towns outside of Philadelphia. So the economy either had to crash or there had to be some sort of martial law. But I can't believe that we would have still been going on a class excursion to Philadelphia had there been some large-scale disaster. It's whatever. But if it was Yolanda King, the granddaughter of Martin Luther King Jr., she wouldn't be eligible to be president for another 19 years, which would be 2044. This guy claims to have traveled from 2045. Could he be referencing her? Maybe, but also his timeline might be off. I think maybe that these travelers that interact with the timeline could be coming from a timeline where they use the Gregorian calendar, or they use the Ethiopian calendar as opposed to the Gregorian calendar, or vice versa. Who knows? Climate change is probably going to be one of the disasters that they use to assert control. And it's already being done. And Tippy Tappy, go sit down. I can hear it in my ears. It's annoying. Sit. But they're regulating industry. They're regulating goods. They're regulating your personal lives in the name of climate change. And not that climate change isn't happening. I believe that we absolutely do have an effect on our physical planet. Is it caused by plastic straws? Probably not. Is it caused by you using your oven more than a conventional or than a regular person? Probably not. It probably has more to do with billionaires using jet fuel to fly to Jamaica for the weekend. Probably has more to do with that than me driving 13 miles to work every day. I think it's a huge con. You're right. It's and brake dust. Yeah, I don't have brake dust. Who uses the brakes? Get out of here! I just slam into stuff. The creative. No, I have not listened to them. But I think I think that the powers at be are going to use it to assert more control, and we're just Americans have become way too comfortable, and we're just letting it happen, and that's fine because I don't really want to fight anybody. I just want people to leave me alone. I'm a libertarian. I'm a right-leaning libertarian, but I just want to be left alone. I don't want them to tell me how to live my life, and I don't want them to tell me what I can and cannot have. If it exists, I should, and I can afford it, I should be able to have it. The government shouldn't be allowed to make that determination. However, there are probably certain people and certain situations that shouldn't be able to have everything. That's why it's a catch-22. I don't think that you should even have to take a test for a driver's license. I don't think you should have to register your vehicles. I don't think there should be any government involvement in that. But if you live in, especially federal, if you want to live in a certain state or a certain town and they have certain laws and regulations, you have to abide by them. It's the law of the land. However, the federal government should stay out of the states. They should stay federal. They should provide infrastructure and protection, and that is all. I'm getting way too political. Back to aliens. What I'm missing the stuff in the chat. It's a whole world agenda for a small group that's scared of losing what they want to hold on to. Yeah, probably. I think that's a very reasonable answer. But also, these elites might, in fact, be aliens, or at least descendants of aliens. I don't know. But that's what a lot of people say. No, I don't really believe people. I don't need money. I can print my own money. Does anybody see It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they do the Dave and Buster's episode and they create Patty's dollars and they just give out the Patty's dollars and then all the homeless people come in and buy all the booze with the Patty's dollars, and now they have a situation at the end where he's like, okay, we have no money and no inventory. This is a business somehow. How does a self-sustaining economy work? I don't know, dude. Oh, that cracks me up. Yeah, I mean, like, everybody should just keep their hands to themselves, stay away from everybody else's property, stay out of their business, let them do their own thing. If it's not hurting you, and if it's not hurting, like, the stuff, or if it has nothing to do with you, stay out of it. That's all there is to it. Let people do what they want to do. If it has nothing to do with you, if they're not hurting anybody, stay out of it. Like, what does gay marriage have to do with anybody besides the two people that want to get married? Let them get married. Who cares? If I want to own a firearm, let me do it. Like, who cares? It's not doing anything to you unless it has to, unless you make it happen. But if I want to build a castle wall around my property, let me do it. I don't need a permit. You know, I'm like Ron Burgundy. Here's my permit. This is just a piece of paper that says I can do what I want. Exactly. Like, if I want to roast a pig in a park, I'm gonna do it. Like, just let me do my thing. Anyway, that's my rant. Everybody just needs to mind their own business and stay out of everybody's life. And it's very difficult to do in the days of social media. It's a shanty town out there. Have some class if you're going to be poor. I love that show. Do you know how many people didn't understand the video I made where I was trying to act like I was Charlie when he was working in the news or in the mailroom, and he was manic. We're old poor. These are new poor. They don't know how it is to be poor. They don't know how to deal with class. Have some class if you're gonna be poor. It's a great episode. But yeah, I had to explain that video to so many people. I'm wearing the exact outfit. I'm doing the exact type of thing. I even put the bow bow in there, and people still didn't get it. A lot of people did ask me where Pepe Sylvia was. However, Pepe Sylvia is actually Pennsylvania, thanks to Charlie's dyslexia. And Carol in HR is actually care of HR. So all of these letters that he was trying to deliver to Pepe, or whatever, were actually Pennsylvania care of HR to the company. So that was the joke. I like to watch them all at one time. The last season I was on was when they went to Ireland. And it seemed like they were all trying to give their range as actors and actresses in that season. Because there is a episode where each person like takes on a not a typical characteristic of that character. Like Charlie, when his dad dies and he's carrying him up the mountain, he takes on like this emotional role, and he actually gives a really touching speech. And I'm like, Charlie Day doesn't do this, but then he might have been trying to get a movie or a movie deal or on a different show. Who knows? But they all gave their range as actors on that season. I thought it was pretty interesting. That video is how we all know. What I like to do in my videos, if I really try for a video, I don't want it to seem outlandish. I want to give actual information and verifiable facts if it's on the wall. If it's not verifiable or if it's fantastical, I will say this is something that I've found. I can't corroborate it. I don't know if it's true or not. I will always give that distinction, or I'll say I don't know much about this, but this is what I've heard or what I've found or what I've seen or what have you. But everything I said in that video where I'm Charlie Day and it's on the wall, that is all verifiable fact. Easily verifiable, easy to find. I know Jackson's got to go out, so we're going to end this soon. But that's my whole thing. This podcast, most of the time is just going to be me interacting with chat and talking about things I've recently found and going down different rabbit holes that I find interesting. And there will be segments and episodes where I have a guest on physically in the cabin, and in the segment that is going to be whiskey drunk and paranoid. Those will be fun. Those will mostly be at the night time. when a friend will come over and share a bottle of whiskey with me and we'll talk about conspiracies. Otherwise, eventually I'll start having guests through video chats and that sort of thing. And that's another thing I'm trying to get better at after listening to myself on several podcasts. One of my shortcomings in speech is saying that sort of thing when I run out of things to say and that sort of thing. I hate it when I say that because I say it all the time. Also, I don't know what the schedule will be, but that is how the setup will go. And I will be taking submissions for topics and stuff like that. I said it again. If you want to either email me, message me, or comment to me, usually the comments get to me faster because I watch my own videos and I think they're funny. I entertain myself. If nobody watched my videos, I would still watch my own videos and laugh and be like, I'm a silly bitch. But anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for joining me. I got to take Jackson out. He's been annoying this episode. I will try and find somewhere to sit him in future episodes so you don't have to deal with the tippy-tappy of the toes and the whining and the drinking of the water and that sort of thing. Said it again.